Welcome to the third annual summit, Calming the ADHD Family. My name is Lara Dawn, and I am your host. And this is day 3. I hope that you have been enjoying day 1 and day 2 as much as I have. Tomorrow for day 4, I hope that you can join me on a Zoom call or inside the ADHD Village Facebook group. We have a wonderful masterclass planned for you. And it's called How Not to Lose Your Cool, Especially When Your Kids Do. So, this is all about finding tools and strategies to help you regulate your own emotions so that when your kids get heated, you can calm things down, cool things down before they explode. And I'll be sharing with you all sorts of preventative strategies that you can put in place that are going to prevent those things from even happening in the first place. So that's tomorrow. I hope that you can join. It will be my pleasure to spend some time with you. And I look forward to actually seeing your faces on Zoom. You've seen my face a lot over the last few days. I really am excited to see your face. So today's session is about hyperfocus. And this is something that I'm really passionate about. So people with ADHD, even though it's called hyperactivity, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, attention deficit, even though it has attention deficit in the label, there isn't a deficit of attention. In fact, there is an abundance of attention. So an ADHD brain can focus, for example, in a classroom on the teacher speaking, the flickering of the lights, the person who's kicking their foot in front of them, a person diagonally behind them who's clicking their pen, somebody who walked by in the hall, the itch of their tag, all of those things with equal amount of attention at the same time. So imagine how hard it is to focus when your brain is attending to so many things at the same time. Imagine how difficult it is just to tune in to what the teacher's saying when your brain is giving the itchy tag and the flickering light the same attention that it's giving the teacher. So there's actually an abundance of attention. And along with this abundance of attention, there can be a hyper focus. So often parents will think their child doesn't have ADHD because they can pay attention and focus to things they love for extended periods of time. Video games, Lego, maybe like reading books about their favorite topic. They can be engaged in those things for hours. So how could they possibly have an attention disorder? That's the gift and the curse of hyperfocus. And before I talk about the curse of it, I just want to show you something. So I want to show you how hyperfocus can be an absolute strength. So look at all of these incredible faces. What do all these brilliant people have in common? They all have ADHD. So I'm sure that you can imagine that Vincent van Gogh benefited from having a hyper focus on art. Albert Einstein, hyper focusing on science, surely was beneficial, right? Like, look at all these brilliant minds. They didn't get to where they were by just putting in a mediocre amount of focus and attention. They had to use an extreme amount of focus and attention to get to where they were. So this is how the hyperfocus can be an absolute gift. But before I talk about that, I want to spend a little bit talking about how it can be a curse because it's not always a fantastic thing. So if your child is hyper focusing on things that are not healthy or beneficial, that is where it can be a challenge. So for example, a child who might be really interested in a topic that is not typical for their age level. So maybe a 7-year-old who's really fascinated by World War II and they want to watch all the books and watch movies and play imaginary play with soldiers all about World War II. Other 7-year-olds are maybe into like Lego and playing with trucks in the sandbox or whatever, like other things, and they're not able to connect because they're the things they're interested in are so different. So that can be challenging as it impairs social relationships. That child, that 7-year-old child, may be spending all of their playtime engaged on their own in this imaginary war play while their friends at recess are interacting and playing with each other. So that's a way where it could be a challenge. As the kids get older, the hyperfocus can be an addiction to things that are unhealthy, gambling, shopping, drugs, alcohol, risky behavior that gets a lot of attention. Unfortunately, statistically, if there is an ADHD diagnosis, there is a higher chance that they will have an addiction. Now, the good news is, what is the antidote to addiction? Connection. This is huge. And this isn't just something I say lightly. When a child feels a deep connection with an adult, and they only need one adult in their life to have a deep connection to, so maybe that adult is you. When they have a deep connection to an adult, something happens to them on a cellular level. When an adult is connecting with them, maybe through deep listening, maybe through engaged play, maybe by showing a genuine interest. So when those things happen, oxytocin is released into the child's bloodstream. When oxytocin is being released, and by the way, if you're the parent who is doing the play and your child is feeling this ooey gooey lovey connection feeling, and they're getting oxytocin in their bloodstream, guess what? You are getting it in your bloodstream too. So you're both getting the benefits of the oxytocin. Oxytocin has been called like the love drug. Oxytocin helps you to feel connected, safe. It allows you to take risks. It allows you to learn. It allows you to feel empathy for others. It's really valuable. And also, this is really cool. When oxytocin is being released into your bloodstream, your body cannot also release cortisol at the same time. So cortisol is being released when you're stressed. People with ADHD are often in fight, flight, or freeze mode. They're in the stress mode. So you've probably seen me do this lots of times. So they're emotionally hijacked. Their frontal cortex. So this is like supposed to be Dr. Daniel Siegel model of the brain. This represents the frontal cortex. This represents the amygdala and the emotional center. When emotions are high, intelligence are low. When the emotions take over, when your brain thinks it's in danger and it goes into fight, flight, or freeze mode, it actually loses access to those executive function skills. So a danger could be not being able to find your car keys, or the teacher looking at you in a way that you don't like, or not being invited to a birthday party. Your brain can receive that as a big danger, put you into fight, flight, or freeze mode. When you're in that fight, flight, or freeze mode, there's a lot of cortisol being released into your bloodstream. You're stressed. Learning cannot happen. Connection doesn't happen. All the good things don't happen in that stress mode. We don't want to spend a lot of time in stress mode. So having these loving bonds, these beautiful connections with your kids helps to regulate their nervous system, regulate their emotions, brings those executive functions back online, blocks cortisol. So it's a beautiful thing. This is actually one of the key modules in my Love You Parenting. And for those of you who have the VIP All Access Pass, you get 1 month of support in my Love You Parenting membership. Inside that membership is a course created by myself and Sarah Nikoruk, and it's the basis of the Love You parenting method. And one of those modules is focused all around oxytocin, the benefits of oxytocin, how you can help use the oxytocin in your child's body to help them regulate, to help them feel safe and connected. Anyway, so if you are a VIP, I strongly encourage you to get into that Love You Parenting membership. And at the top in the guide section, you will see the Love You Parenting Intensive, and click on O, and you will learn all about oxytocin. So now my ADHD brain has gone off track. Where was I? Do you remember the hack that I've taught you about if you forget something and you do the lazy 8 with your eyes? 90% of the time when you do that, the thought will come back to you. Another good strategy, because people with ADHD often forget, another good strategy is like, I think of this as like throwing, like, you know, when you throw the fishing line and then you reel it in. So like throw out, like, help the person remember what they were talking about, and then this and this and this, and then that can help them make the connection. So I was talking about hyperfocus, and connection is the antidote. See, it came back to me. Connection is the antidote to addiction. So super powerful thing is to help have these loving bonds and connections with your child. That's the antidote to addiction. Hyperfocus can go in a negative way if they're spending too much time on things that are not healthy for them. TikTok, maybe, Snapchat. They can get obsessive thoughts about things maybe that aren't politically correct. That's going to cause conflict when they communicate with their peers. We want to be mindful of that, and we want to direct the hyperfocus to positive things. Dr. Hallowell says, help your child fall in love. Help them find the thing that they're passionate about, and let's focus on that. So just like I showed that graphic of all these brilliant brains, Bill Gates, Thomas Edison, Whoopi Goldberg, they were able to direct their focus on things that they're passionate about. And look what they were able to create. And I think this is really important to help our kids find their passion and help them to focus on the things that they're good at, that their strengths, the things that they're interested in, because they already have this great big long list of things that they struggle with: organization, time management, planning, impulse control, conflict resolution. Like the list goes on and on and on. And that feels really yucky in their body. That feels yucky in their thoughts. So the more we can build them up with their positivity and the things that they're good at, the better. I have ADHD, so I have the ability to hyper focus, and my hyper focus has been on creating the ADHD Village. It's been on creating my Love You Parenting membership. It's been on creating my signature program, which is the ADHD Warrior Mamas. So when you're able to direct your focus on your passion and really like put all your heart and soul into it, you can create some really beautiful things. So I would love for you, just for yourself, for fun, like think about, what are you passionate about? Whether you have ADHD or not, what are you passionate about? What would you love to spend more time doing? Like what lights you up? And I think often as parents, we're so busy taking care of our kids and doing all the things and all the responsibilities that we don't give ourselves the time to focus on things that light us up. So think about what lights you up. What do you love to do? What sparks that excitement and that joy for you? And how can you spend some time in your day or in your week investing in that thing that you love so that you can use the power of hyperfocus? Another thing I'd like to talk to you about focusing your thoughts and your energy is I think it's very valuable to start noticing your thoughts. Like we're now becoming so much more conscious and aware of our thoughts. 90% of our thoughts are automatic and negative. That means they're not very helpful. So I encourage you to try to notice your thoughts when they jump into your head. Notice when your child does something, do you have the thought, oh, like I made a mistake, or I'm not a good mom, or whatever it is? Notice the thoughts, question the thoughts, and then you can direct your focus. What thoughts do you want to have? So your thoughts create your feelings, which drive your actions. And thoughts happen a fraction of a second before a feeling, and that's shown on a brain scan. So if you have the thought, I don't know, I'm terrible at math, you're probably going to feel discouraged. And when you get to math class, you're not going to feel very motivated to participate in math. So this is something you can do with your kids too, help them to recognize their thoughts. So how can we shift that language? How can we have like shift it to a more growth mindset? What about, I'm open to learning something new in math? So not just I'm terrible in math, but I'm open to learning something new. So if you're feeling that math isn't your strength, there's probably lots of new things that you can learn. So I'm open to learning something new in math. Having that thought probably leads to the feeling of, I don't know, openness, interest, curiosity. And going into math class with that thought is going to drive your actions maybe to pay attention a little bit more, or to be open your mind up to learning something that's new to you. So this is, if this is something that you're interested in diving in more, I would love to connect with you. I love playing around with thoughts and feelings and looking at underlying thoughts and subconscious thoughts and how we can direct our focus. I love the saying, where your focus goes, your energy flows. We're all energy. Everything is energetic frequency. Like, so if you're focusing all the time on, for example, like my kids are giving me a hard time, my kids aren't listening, they're always fighting, blah, 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 then you're going to create more of that in your world. Whereas if you're focusing on, I find a glimmer of happiness every day with my children, then your thoughts are going to go more that way. So let me just give you an example. So when you have a thought, especially if that thought repeats, and then that thought combines with a feeling, it creates a belief. So if I have the thought, my kids are always fighting, and when I think that thought, I feel crummy. I feel, um, what would be a feeling word when you feel like a failure as a mom? Like maybe I feel like guilty. Maybe I feel guilty when I think my kids are always fighting. That leads me to feeling guilty. So now I have this belief like I'm a bad mom. So now what I've done is I've alerted my reticular activating system in my brain to look for evidence of my kids are always fighting and I'm a bad mom. So anytime my kids have a disagreement, my my reticular activating system, which is like it's like the bouncer. You know, when you go to a nightclub and there's bouncers and they decide what comes in, that's what the RAS is in the brain. It decides what comes in, and it needs to be alerted to what you think is important to come in. So if I'm repeating in my head constantly, my kids are always fighting and I'm a bad mom, my brain is going to let in more of those things. I'll notice more of those things. And then what that does is it just reinforces that connection in my brain that thought, that belief is true. And my brain will actually get a hit of dopamine each time that happens. Like, my kids are fighting. See, I knew it. I knew they would always fight. And that means I'm a bad mom. See, there's more evidence and more proof. So take a step back, and now let's focus on glimmers. So a glimmer is an opposite of a trigger. It's like a little pocket of pleasure, a little moment of happiness. And if you have the thought, I will find a glimmer with each of my children every day. Now that bouncer in your brain is looking for evidence. Oh, my kid just smiled. There's a glimmer. I had a glimmer today. This is so funny. I think it's funny. I was driving my son home from camp and I glanced over and I noticed like his feet and his legs were like had like caked on mud. And that brought me such joy because it means to me that my kid was outside all day in nature, like off technology, like involved doing fun things. He was playing in the creek and I was like, yes, like that's amazing. That was such a glimmer. So if my mind had been so focused on like all the things that are going wrong, and I might have looked at that mud and not even noticed it. Like the glimmers are always there, but you have to be open to seeing them. Or I might have even looked at the mud and thought, ugh, he's gotta like wash those feet and legs before he like goes to bed because I don't want that dirt in the sheets. Right. So it depends like where you are directing your focus and your attention. This is how we can tap into our life's dreams, how we can have the life that we dreamed of, is by directing our attention, choosing our thoughts. I do this with my kids with sports. For example, my oldest son is, well, they both are, but I'm thinking about my oldest now. He's super passionate about soccer. So that is something that he is able to hyper focus on, and that has been really good for him. So we try to direct his thoughts. Like, he might have some negative thoughts about his performance or something, but before a game or before bed, we talk about, like, what would you like to happen at your next game? Well, I'd like to score a goal. Okay, imagine scoring that goal. What does it feel like? He's like, oh, it feels great. I'm like, and what would you do if you scored the goal? I'd smile. I'd high five my teammates. My teammates would cheer. Like, wouldn't that be amazing? Let's focus on that. And so now he's got this idea in his mind of scoring a goal. So going into a game with this excitement about scoring a goal is so much powerful than going into a game with this, oh, I didn't score a goal last time, I suck at soccer. Right. So you can see how directing that attention, focusing on where you want to go, how powerful that is. So for you, like, what are your dreams? What are your goals? What do you want to focus on? Something that I really do in my coaching that I find really powerful is we do a brain rewire, and there's a there's lots of steps to it. But basically, it's clearing out the gunky thoughts that are not helping you, that are not serving you, that are holding you back from reaching your dreams and your goals, and then filling in the thoughts and the beliefs that are going to help you to get to where you want to go. And there's a way that we can do this to actually rewire the connections in your brain. And so this is a beautiful way to use this power of hyperfocus and directing energy. I'm going to leave it at that for now. If you have more questions about hyperfocus, connect with me. I'd love to chat about it. I invite you again tomorrow, Thursday. I believe the time is 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. That's when the Zoom call is. Everybody's invited. It's the How Not to Lose Your Cool, especially when your kids do workshop. And VIPs, we have a session in the afternoon, and that one is the Heart Brain Boot Camp. If you don't have your VIP All Access Pass yet and you would still like it, I strongly encourage you, if you're interested, to join me for the afternoon group coaching in the Heart Brain Boot Camp. You need your VIP pass to get in there. I'd love to support you there. And also VIPs, please remember your Love You Parenting membership. You have 1 month support. You have access to the whole course, the Love You Parenting Intensive, which sells for $444 on its own. So it's worth it to get in the membership, even if you just use it for that one course. Reach out to me, please, if you have any questions. Please, I'd love to see you inside the ADHD Village Facebook group. There's lots of communication going on in there. There's lots of community building. It's a beautiful place to be. Thank you for spending this time with me during the summit. I would love to hear from you and connect with you more. Sending you all so much love, and enjoy day 3 of the summit. Mwah.